He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife. Why she will never succeed. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. It is the case that we can look at various people and categorize them into particular groupings. We may do so, for instance, with regard to the level of talent and likability that they have and derivations thereof. Now, before I provide you with some examples, given the fact that there are several billion people on the planet, it's always going to be the case that someone will say, oh, I don't think they're talented, or no, I don't think they're particularly likable. I understand that, and that might be your opinion. But for the purposes of demonstrating why this one's wife will never succeed, we're looking at the consensus, the majority view that is taken in respect of these individuals, something which is apparent from what is critical and popular opinion, what the critics write about these individuals, what the internet says about these individuals. And therefore, if your view is different from the categorizations and examples that I've given, fair enough, but understand that you're likely to be in the minority, and we're talking about the majority view here. Accordingly, we can look at certain individuals in the world that we would largely agree are talented people, and they're also likable. So, for example, they have a talent in the world of business. They have a talent with regard to acting. They have a talent with regard to playing sport. Indeed, many of the individuals that are talented and likable are the ones that are famous that we can point to. There are plenty of talented and likable people who aren't famous, but there's little point in me naming some of those because you won't know who I'm referring to. Thus, famous examples would include Emma Stone, who has just won an Oscar. She's clearly a talented actress, and she's largely liked by people. National treasure, David Attenborough. The actor Hugh Jackman. Robert Downey Jr. Morgan Freeman. Professor Brian Cox. Robin Williams. Betty White. Denzel Washington. The footballer Declan Rice. Yes, there might be some ex-West Ham, or rather some West Ham supporters that might not be too keen on his move to Arsenal, but he's largely recognised as being a decent human being. Jack Grealish plays for Manchester City. Similarly, very good with the fans, spends time with those particularly who are disabled, etc. And he's got a talent. He's a talented footballer. He plays in the Premier League and plays for the best side in the country. Martin Ødegaard, the Norwegian who plays for Arsenal, thoroughly decent human being. George Michael, of course. Sir Ian McKellen. And there are plenty of other examples that I'm sure that you could provide. And therefore, we would agree that these individuals all have talent, whether it's talent in sport, talent in acting, talent with regard to a particular scientific field, perhaps a talent with regard to broadcasting, talent with songwriting, etc. And they're largely likable. At most, some people would say, not really that bothered about them, but yeah, I get why they're popular. We then would consider a categorization of individuals who are talented yet divisive. You're not going to find somebody that is talented who is universally reviled. You're going to find individuals that will clearly have quite a lot of supporters, but also a lot of people don't like them as well. So, for example, Cristiano Ronaldo, undoubtedly a very talented footballer that has many of his fanboys, but also there's a lot of people that think that he's a narcissistic preening bell end. Woody Allen, there's no doubting his talent, and he had a lot of fans with regard to the screenwriting that he was engaged in. But of course, as a consequence of off-screen activity, he's proven to be a rather divisive figure. Gwyneth Paltrow. She's a decent enough actress and, of course, has created a very substantial lifestyle brand. Her performance in the Royal Tenenbaums was undoubtedly an excellent supporting actress performance. However, there are many people that can't stand her because she sells candles that smell of her hoo-ha, and she tells you to stick eggs in your front bottom, etc., and that she comes across as up herself and pretentious. Elon Musk, he has an army of fanboys, and then there are other people who can't stand him. Justin Bieber, popular artist, again, he had his legion of dedicated fans, and other people can't stand him for being a douchebag, and they don't like his music. Tom Cruise, a hugely successful actor, but largely seen by certain sections as a weirdo. Russell Brand, talented with regard to not a bad actor, he's certainly a motor mouth, he's an excellent presenter, but a divisive character, and of course more recently has faced allegations about his behaviour towards women. Bill Gates, clearly talented with regard to the creation of the Microsoft empire, but again a divisive figure as a consequence of suggestions that he has his world agenda. Tiger Woods, very talented golfer, but his off-course activities and his family life have left people less than satisfied with him. Taylor Swift, she has the zealous worship of the Swifties, but then there are other people that think that she's overhyped, that she's not all that they find her immature and irritating. Mariah Carey, great singer, but of course very much known for her diva-like behaviour and being up herself. And again, I'm sure there are other examples that you could furnish me with of individuals that have clearly got some talent, but they are divisive. We then have individuals that you wouldn't say are particularly talented, but people nevertheless like them. You might remember the skier Eddie the Eagle. He was pretty rubbish at it, but he got the hearts of a nation behind them because he was plucky and he gave it a go. Diana, Princess of Wales, not particularly bright woman, not really talented at anything, but was eminently likeable, loved by millions around the globe. Keanu Reeves, he's not the world's best actor, but he's very much loved because he's a decent human being. Catherine, Princess of Wales, moderate academic-wise, what has she actually done in life that's stand out and talented? No, but she's likeable because she's a decent human being. Rupert Grint, again, not a particularly great actor, but by all accounts, a very likeable individual. Vin Diesel plays the same role in every film that he does. Not particularly talented, but well-liked by many people. Paul Rudd, Mr. Mediocre, some would say, yet liked. Gal Gadot, the actress, a beautiful woman, but not a particularly great actress, but again, liked by a lot of people. You see the fan worship of her. Thus, you have those individuals who, yes, they will have some degree of ability. After all, they're not completely useless. They wouldn't be. But you wouldn't describe them as particularly talented. You could say there's plenty of people that could do what they do, and yet they get by because of their likability, because they're not offensive, because they're good with people, that they're kind, that they're empathic. And then we get to an individual who has no talent and isn't likeable. And thus, in order to succeed, our first categories, you either had people who had it both. They were both talented and liked because they're decent people. You would then have those who clearly have talent, so you begrudgingly admire that, but are not necessarily the most pleasant of human beings. However, they get away with it because of their talent. I've explained before that certain individuals, and they're often narcissists, are unpleasant to those who are around them, but are adored by their fans because they're talented, and their narcissism enables them to broadcast their talent. Accordingly, although many people may think, no, I don't like them, I have to recognise that they're hugely successful at what they do. I have to recognise that they are really talented. Then those of the third category, those that don't have much talent or particularly any talent, but they're well known and well liked because of the way that they conduct themselves. And thus, all of those three categories, the individuals concerned with them have found success, and with that, fame. But then we come to this one's wife. Can we put her in the talented category? No, we can't, because she hasn't got any. A talent for finding the camera isn't really a talent, because the camera's only there because she married Harry. A talent for self-promotion isn't really a talent, because she's only reported on because she married Harry. She hasn't worked for that attention of herself. She hasn't pursued a career for 20 years before suddenly becoming an overnight sensation. Those talents are actually attributable to somebody else. She's not a writer. The book that she created, The Bench of Stench, hilarious. Her speeches are coma-inducing. She's not a good content creator. She either creates nothing, or what she does create is boring and uninteresting. She's not a political animal. She hasn't invented anything. She doesn't show any business acumen. She's not an entrepreneur. She hasn't innovated. She's not a brilliant presenter or broadcaster. She's a mediocre actress. She hasn't even got, if you will, the personal or human touch. Therefore, she is a talent-free zone. And the only reason that we all know about her is because she married Harry. For all of the attempts to say that she was universally famous because of Suits, that's simply not true. You ask most people, did you know about this one's wife because of Suits? They'll say, no, I know about her because of who she married. Marrying somebody isn't a talent. Thus, the problem that this one's wife has is that she is a talent-free zone. Unlike some of those examples that I've given you of individuals who are unlikable but talented, they get away with it because they've got that inherent ability. She hasn't. She has nothing to fall back on by way of talent for people to say, well, she's a horrible human being, but she's a brilliant actress, or she's thoroughly unlikable, but you've got to recognize that she's built up this billion-dollar company and employed thousands of people. So you kind of have to respect that. No, none of that is applicable to her. Thus, she is missing that ingredient, which means that she can't be in the talented and likable section because she's not talented. She can't be in the talented and divisive section because she's not talented. Well, that just leaves us with perhaps placing her in the not particularly talented but likable category. But then she has a problem there also, because she's not likable. Yes, I recognise that she does have some supporters, but we all know that those individuals only support her because they don't really understand what she is. And they only actually support her because many of them live vicariously through her. They see her as somebody attaining something that they would like to have attained. And that's not admiring somebody for a talent. It's almost, I wish I could be her because she got the fairy tale story of coming from a mediocre background and marrying a prince. Isn't that great? And many of those supporters only support her because they're paid to do so, or they utilize her as part of their own agendas. Thus, in terms of likability, she isn't particularly likable even amongst her supporters. But those supporters are outnumbered by the number of individuals who either have no interest in her or the growing numbers of people who find her thoroughly unlikable. And she's unlikable for a vast number of reasons which I needn't repeat here in particular detail, but includes her obvious narcissism, her selfishness, the lies that she's told, the revisions of history that she's engaged in, the way that she's ostracized members of her family, the way that she's treated former friends, the way that she's bullied staff, the way that she pushes Harry around, the way that she always seeks out the camera, the self-obsessed nature of her behavior, her hypocrisy, her laziness, and so on. There are many reasons why she is not liked, and it is evidence. It isn't just a blind prejudice against her. There's plenty of evidence which supports why people don't like her. And thus the problem that she has got is that she's famous, or perhaps infamous, purely because of the man that she married, but she didn't get there through talent, and she didn't get there through likability. Accordingly, where does she go from here? She gets herself onto that position of, right, we all know about you because of your husband, but that's not really going to keep you in the public eye moving forward because you're not carrying out a role as a member of the royal family. So you're going to need to get yourself in the talented category. Oh, you can't because you don't have any talent. Okay, how about working at being likable instead then? And this is what she's been trying to do. She's been trying to achieve success by demonstrating that you can like her, that she is this champion of female rights, that she's an advocate for women, that she turns up at the South by Southwest conference and talks about online bullying, that she has issued a video supporting the animal charity and mentioning the gentleman that had died, that she has gone to somebody's house connected with the Uvalde tragedy and presented them with a cake and some flowers, that she has turned up at a barbecue, making it seem like she's interested in what people have to say. She supported Ingrifftus by going to Whistler. And therefore, what she's been attempting to do is carry out essentially a royal role, even though she has eschewed that in the past. She's attempting to become likeable by saying, look, I do kind things, I support charities, I'm involved in philanthropy. But the problem that she's got, it's already too late. She has established that she's thoroughly unlikable, and people have seen through her as to what she is. Many people accepting that she is a narcissist, many other people just thinking, no, she's a self-obsessed, self-promoting grifter that I don't like. And no matter how many times you try and rehabilitate that image, it's too far gone. People see her for what she is and just see all of this activity as late as more self-serving behaviour, trying to convince the public that she's something that she actually isn't. And therefore, the reason that this one's wife will never succeed is because she is both untalented and unpopular. Yes, she has fame, but she didn't get that herself. It was because of the man that she married. Yes, she's gained wealth, although that is diminishing, and it's unlikely that she's going to be able to sustain that. That wealth only came about as a consequence of what? The family that she married into. She didn't gain that wealth because she's a brilliant actress. She didn't gain that wealth because she's written brilliant books or created mind-blowing content. She only gained that wealth because two providers of media, Netflix and Spotify, thought, right, you've been in the royal family, you're going to have loads of gossip, so we're going to bung some money at you for you to tell us about that. They recognised, because even as Ted Sarandos has said lately, that she's very good at creating controversy and attention, and that they are the ones that put in the infrastructure to allow her story to be told. She hasn't got the inherent ability as a producer or a director or as a writer or even as an actress. She has to rely upon other people to create that framework, and she's meant to be there to provide the raw product. But the problem that she's got is that that raw product is limited because much of it's invented and a lot of it's based upon attacking other people, which ultimately grows tiresome, and victimhood, which grows old very quickly. And therefore, those organisations realised, actually, the gossip that we thought you had wasn't as good as we anticipated, and it's rather in short supply. And thus, in order to keep going, she needs to either have some talent or be likeable, and she's neither of those things. She can't muster up the talent, so she's trying to be likeable, but as I've explained, it's already too late in that regard. Her own behaviours have caused her to be repeatedly viewed as unlikable. There's no redemption for her. She's not going to be able to rehabilitate that image. And therefore, as a consequence of having no talent and not being likeable, she will never succeed. That doesn't mean that she's going to immediately go away, of course. She is that unflushable turd that will keep on trying, driven by her narcissism. So long as she has some money, and there are enough silly people out there that will continue to countenance receiving that money to allow her to have a platform, South by Southwest for example, she will still have a degree of prominence And she can also rely on the fact that there are many people wanting to watch the train wreck arrive at Oblivion Station, and thus she will be reported on repeatedly and regularly. But the fact remains, while she might be reported on, there's a lot of criticism associated with that, and that doesn't equate to success. And therefore, because she's a talent-free zone and unlikable, she will never succeed. Do you agree with that view and that conclusion? Let me know in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.